Jetzt die neue Single von Moby.
Say go.
Go.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host today. Welcome to our special edition of FC Chat, where we are talking to people who are running for CSM. And so instead of introduce them ourselves, I'm going to give them all a chance to introduce them and kind of go through who they are and what they do in the game. So we'll start off with Arsia.
Hello, my name is Arsia Elkin. I would describe myself as a role-playing PvPer. I'm a member of the Alliance Electus Matari. I spend my free time mostly FCing, roaming small gangs for my Alliance, and participating in Alliance ops and campaigns. I used to run a public fleet, and for the entire time I've been playing Eve, I've been focused on roleplay, and for most of that time, like 7 of the 10 or 11 years, 7 or 8 of 10 or 11 years was predominantly just PvPing in mostly low sec. I roam everywhere. Like millisec is a playground and low sec is my home.
All right, Isaac.
I'm Isaac Collins. I'm an affable scumbag, I think would be a good nomer. I camp Rancer along with our other corps and affiliates, part of the Rancer Custom Office. And I enjoy gate camps. It's the only content I really do. A little bit of PvE content, but primarily gate camps. And I think they're an integral part of the cycle of content in the game. And my Lost Board and our Corpse Lost Board and our affiliated friends can attest to that on a pretty regular basis. So I just care specifically about low-sec, non-faction warfare low-sec. And then I care a lot about the new player experience in terms of some things that could be reformed in the game, like the Corp Tool Finder and just updating content so that it's more fresh, so that like top 10 bounty hunters can see the top 10 bounties that are playing this week or something like that, to the effect that, so that it doesn't have inactive players on the top 10 most wanted list board. That's pretty much it. Go ahead, Squishy.
All right. White Orchid?
Yeah, hey guys, White Orchid here. I've played Eve now since about 2008. In that time, I've kind of covered a lot of the game. I used to run missions, PvE, incursions, D&D sites, that kind of thing. Mostly now, it's mostly PvP. In Volta, I spend a lot of time kind of small to medium-sized fleet PvP, a lot of multi-boxing. I've got a big 6-screen layout, so characters all over the place. And I also work within Eve Uni and help out on their kind of fittings team, building doctrines for them, kind of giving tips to budding FCs, that kind of thing.
All right, and Squishy.
I'm Extra Squishy, streamer, memer, and PvPer. I mostly focus on solo and small gang PvP. That's about it, really.
I think most people on Twitch are actually pretty aware of who you are.
Yeah.
And for Baleful, by the way,
No,
she's
I'm
streaming a
tiny
lot too.
streamer.
I
There's
already
Brisk
linked it.
as well.
Yep, number 1 Squishy fan Brisk is here too. The leader of the fan club.
Wow, Brisk, I'm betrayed.
Yeah, I think Baleful and Squishy stream. Do the other guys stream? Isaac and White.
I used
Yeah,
to do a little bit of casual stuff, years and years ago, probably 3-4 years ago now, but not so much anymore. No.
All right, so the number 1 question that I always have, or that I actually asked Hi when I had him on the last time, was like, why are you guys doing that to yourselves? Like, honestly.
You make it sound so ominous.
Well, it's I mean,
yeah,
if you
diagnosis.
If you want to do it right, I think it's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and a lot of work that people might not even ever get to see.
Yeah.
So
we're probably all masochists, right? Probably just enjoy the pain.
and narcissistic to some extent.
I wasn't going to say it.
I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good answer
It
for
is
this.
what it is.
I already stream solo PvP. Like, how bad can it be? Like, is there anything worse than that? Like, the way I see it, like, I love this game, and I want to see the game actually become fun to play. And it doesn't seem like anyone else is really getting the things I would like to see in the game put in. So I'm kind of left with no choice but to do it myself, right? That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think in your case, I always thought like you're creative in what you do, right? So, and that's what I like about the game too. It gives you so much freedom, so you can like do things differently. You don't have to do the whatever mutant fleets only kind of thing. You can do like solo stuff. You can do solo stuff in just a bomber, like you did. Like I think that was pretty much the beginning of you streaming and stuff, or doing YouTube videos, right? Like the creative part
stuff.
Yeah,
I think I've only FC'd one mutant fleet, and that was when I was in Horde. And it was the most boring thing I'd ever done, and I never did it again.
I fucking hate it too.
True.
But yeah.
What about the rest of you guys?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out maybe there's like someone who's creative has like a better take on like where can we get more content like out of the game,
So why am I doing this to myself? Because after the pandemic, I moved from having a full-time job to doing contracting work online, which kind of gives me more flexibility and freedom to pursue something that does take a lot of time and investment, such as the CSM. And this game in particular has given me a lot over the years. I've made a lot of friends, I've had a lot of fun, and it's my primary source of recreation. So I want to give back because I am in a unique position in my life where I have the time to devote to giving back to the game. And I think that I am in a unique position to be both not just a PvPer. There's a lot of fantastic candidates this year, a lot of fantastic low-sec and PvP candidates, but I am in a unique position to be both a low-sec and a lore RP focused candidate. There's good lore focused candidates, there's good RP focused candidates, good low-sec focused candidates, but I think I'm in a unique position to be a blend of both.
We were talking about that in our last episode too, because they kept bringing up content creation, and I always am one of those people that when FCs bring up content creation and talk about content creation, they're talking about PvP centric content creation. But I think it's important at the same time to recognize that there are other facets of EVE, which is one of the things that makes it so unique compared to other MMOs that are out there. The fact that you do have this huge RP community that's very active, and you have all of these different aspects of quote unquote content creation.
So I'm going to say something that's going to blow a lot of people's minds, but the primary form of content in maybe not all, but most of the RP community is PvP, right? RPers, by and large, look for cool reasons to shoot each other.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
I think when you hear the term role player, most hardcore PvP guys in this game are gonna be like, whatever, and they're gonna look down on it a little bit. I'm gonna say I'm probably one of them. I'm probably in the past I probably would have done that.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, and it's hilarious. Like it was like an RPer that landed like the initial scram of Asakai, right? It was the way I met Elise Randolph, who's a buddy of mine, is I went against him in a tournament, and everybody was joking about how he's got the easiest bracket in the thing because he's up against a bunch of RPers, and then we won, right?
I love that.
Right, like a lot of people overlook RPers. Like even CCP, like with the invasions came out, and CCP, when they designed the invasions, didn't expect organized Edencom resistance. They expected a small Triglavian group running around, and the locals who lived in the systems defending the systems. And what happened was a lot of Triglavian support. There's a lot of Triglavian support because people started RPing around it. And there is a lot of Edencom support because the old school Empire-based RPers all jumped in. So there was, obviously not everybody was RPers, but RPers generated a lot of the hype around the event. Like the backbone of the Edencom group was 3 or 4 older RP alliances that showed up to most of the low-sec systems and a lot of the high-sec systems. And there's a lot of good fights in the low-sec and the liminal systems in the invasions, and they wouldn't have happened if people didn't care about the lore and the storyline of the game.
See, when I think of roleplay, I just think of like 2 thoraxes taking their Atron to school.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to ask actually, what does roleplay even mean in the context of, is it only people that, I mean, so I'm guessing it's people that just embrace the story that is like put out there by CCP, right? Amar versus Kadari or whatever, right? And then they take that so serious that, you know, they would only fly Amar, for example, in Provi. That was a long time, right? And then you would, but then it's PvP too, right? Like, yeah, you're right, actually. Right? I didn't think about that, to be quite honest.
I know, me too. And I always think of like PvE related stuff.
So the funny thing is, you mentioned the Amar only people from Private Block. You're thinking of the founders of CVA, which were Pi Incorporated, who left when faction warfare became a thing and formed their own alliance. And I was in that alliance for 6.5 years, and I flew only Amar ships. And then my character defected, right? So she's in the Republic alliance now. But like what roleplay is very, like, it's a very personal thing. Like there's common threads where people care about the story, but some people don't care about the story and they want to RP. I'm a pirate and I do piracy, and it can be that simple sometimes. Basically, yes. If you are making suboptimal, not always suboptimal, but like if your decisions are based off of almost anything other than what is the optimal play, then there's a chance that you have an element of RP in your own play. Like a lot of people do care about the story, and a lot of people do design like a fully fleshed out character, and a lot of people do text-based chatting and RP. A lot of people just shoot particular people in space because they want to be a pirate or an anti-pirate or a loyalist of a certain faction or something like that. How involved depends on the person to person, and like I'm not going to say only the super nerds like myself are RPers. I think the amount of RPers in EVE is actually a big number that maybe a lot of people who are role-playing to some degree don't even think they're role-players.
That's an interesting take too.
So you must like the new patch then, like all the stuff that's going on with the EOM then.
This new quadrant has made some of the bitterest of bitter vets in the RP community very optimistic. Like people who have been playing since day 1 and salty since day 2 have had a lot of good things to say about this last couple weeks.
So wait a second, but what about so when it was first Triglavians was Edencom, there was like a big debate about the story with the influence of like the Edencom lost basically, right? And then it looked like it wasn't as open. The result of this whole thing wasn't as open as it was, you know, first communicated.
The ending to the story was a bit bungled. So like the systems that became Podchven are systems the Triglavians won. And the Triglavians put in a lot of effort. They deserved a cool region. With their standing locked gates at the time, they're no longer standing locked. But the thing is, for the 27 liminal systems and 27 or 28 minor victories Triglavians won, Edencom had something like 54 fortresses and 80 some odd minor victories, and we ended up getting essentially nothing for it. Our Edencom standings do nothing. I guess we don't have to worry or we farm Triglavians, but the fact is most of the Edencom players were PvPs and PvPers, and we don't want to not care if our like not even more access to a PvE thing. Like basically we got nothing because they didn't expect Edencom to exist, which is more or less what we actually heard from CTP. They expected just locals to defend their own systems and go back to what they were doing. And they were just completely taken off guard that there was organized Edencom aside.
It's a very directed sandbox.
Yeah. It kind of felt. I mean, I'm not an RPer. I didn't really get involved in the Edencom Triglavian stuff. I followed the Triglavian story, but yeah, it kind of felt like the Edencom side got the short end of the stick there. They put in just as much effort, albeit with maybe a little, fewer people. But
not even fewer people.
What was there to show? Must kind of suck, right?
Yeah.
Well, luckily you don't need trig standings either, and they do nothing either.
How do you get those Edencom ships? The Stormbringer and all those things? Aren't those from like loyalty points or something, or are they not? They don't use the same system.
I don't think you need standings to do the LP store though.
Yeah, that's what I would have expected, right? They bring a new ship line out, and then the Edencom guys that have the standing, like maybe depending on how high the standing is, they would have access to those new ships. Right? They get equipped to fight the evil Triglavians. I think that would have been a cool move, and that way the losers would get the losers. I say, like, the story wouldn't end there, right? So then the story goes further and says, like, all right, now they're like reshipping. It's an arms race kind of thing, and they're back in battle.
I don't know about an entire ship class exclusive to one group of people, but like maybe just being able to get the blueprints.
You know how it is in EVE though. Nothing is ever exclusive. There's gonna be some guy who just gets all the ships and then sells it to whoever, right? Whoever pays best. So
you mean not like you have to have the standing to fly it?
No, that's not what I meant.
That's what I thought you meant.
I think that would be good.
I think it's even simpler. Even simpler than we're thinking, because a lot of the Edencom side honestly just wanted to keep going along the storylines that we had made during the CCP storyline. Like, how like the Triglavian groups, in anticipation for Podchven, they put down structures in the Podchven systems that are the current structures that are still up. Which ones are still up in Podchven, but we did too. We wanted to, okay, now the flip is script. We're going to be the invaders, and we're going to keep fighting these guys we've enjoyed fighting for the last several months. But we can't actually access the region, so why would we even bother with this space? Let's go back to what we're doing. We don't even get to keep playing. Now we can. But it is kind of like
too late.
We're back to what we're doing. We were stopped dead in our tracks.
Hard to get the band back together.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to give Isaac
guys
and White Orchid, the chance to answer the question of why you guys are doing this to yourself.
Yeah, I think both Arsia and Squishy kind of touched on it. It's really just, I personally I've played this game for a little while now. I've done a little bit of a lot in the game, maybe not to a huge depth, And I just think that it just comes from a place of just wanting to help the game out and the players in it, so we can all have more fun out of it, basically. Personally, I like the fact that I've got a little bit of experience in a few more than just one very kind of thin area of the game. So like I say in my post, like playing devil's advocate when CCP come in and like maybe potentially put some changes on the board, it might really benefit one particular style of gameplay, but it might ruin 3 others at the same time. So having that ability to kind of maybe see what those different things might be, I think, would help me out personally.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I always try to make people aware that we need like a diverse CSM, right? Yes, there might be some people that are on the CSM that can answer a lot of questions about a lot of areas, but when it comes to specifics too, right, you need like someone for every aspect, right? I just believe it's a waste to have like 5-6 nullsec guys on there, right? You need to have someone who can connect the dots and say, okay, yes, you can do it like this, but like
There's
for
so many
example,
perspectives.
yeah, exactly. But like it's always also like it's great to have someone who can actually connect them, right? So you have like, for example, you have the wormhole guy, you have the nullsec guy, you have a lowsec guy on there, right? And then you have someone on there who actually played all 3 and says like, all right, you guys misunderstand each other for whatever reason, and this is why, right? I've played both, and like having someone connecting it for everyone, I think that's probably pretty useful.
I think it's good because often if you are very focused on an area, as you probably would naturally be, you can sometimes be very emotional towards it and want to protect it, right? So having someone who's perhaps a little bit detached from that and looks at it from a factual and an information point of view could be quite useful.
That's another thing why I think it's important to have less block candidates, right? Like you guys, I picked it out as like you guys are independent or smaller groups, or at least your group you're playing in is independent, right? You're not part of any coalition. So having someone on there who isn't influenced by any, like cannot be influenced, let's say it like that, right? I'm not saying the guys that are on are necessarily influenced, but
I could be influenced if the price is right.
I knew you would fucking make a meme.
Don't say that.
Don't even spend any ISK, Squishy. I don't know what you're on about.
Yeah, but like everyone else, I accumulate assets.
Through the courses.
But
So,
all right,
Isaac?
So I wanted to get involved in this for a couple of reasons. Primary one is there's someone running right now that's got a very antithetical view to the way content works in the game. And so I felt it was really important to, at the very least, get my side of the story out there. Because, I mean, just the other day, we were camping the gate, and we had 9 or 10 of these 100 MN legions. Have you guys ever had the pleasure of interacting with these things? The legions with 100 MN afterburners on them.
They're not fun to deal with.
No, so we dropped some caps on them. Yeah, we dropped some caps on them, and we're like, we're not applying any damage. Like we sat there for an hour and a half trying to get 2 dreads and a fax and a carrier off of this gate, because we had one guy that just dropped the dread and warped his carrier to gate. He wanted to fight him. Well, I got a fleet coming. I'm gonna fight him. So we almost got dunked real hard. But I mean, we have tons of lost mails where it's like, we'll just take a gambit, man. Gate camps are the only place I think you'll find a spontaneous fight outside of the Rorquals, the Rorqual timers. Everything outside of gate camps and Rorquals are going to be faction warfare, where it's kind of like you're waiting for a fight or you're expecting a fight, or it's the timers where you're planning for a fight. So I think gate camps are integral to the cycle of content, and my loss boards can prove that. I promise. I've got a lot of losses. I'm quite proud of them. I don't get wrapped up in, I don't know, some people get really mad about that kind of stuff. But anyways, so I wanted to get the voice out on this kind of thing, and I want to see more themes about like pirates versus like the Empire or faction space and stuff like that. I feel like piracy is practically dead. The only thing that being a pirate means is like you get concorded, or you get, whenever people attack you, anyone can attack you. It's like Bomber's Bar will drop a Sino on you with a frigate, like they don't care because they face no gate guns. Like you're everybody's target, so there's zero benefit to being a pirate. And it's not like the nullsec space guys are like not killing as many pods as us. Arguably, they're killing far more than us. They get to play that style and have zero repercussions for it. So yeah, that's about it. I just want to try to see.
Gate camping FC, is that a thing? It is.
Yes, it is.
And I agree 100% with Isaac saying gate camps should be like a thing in EVE, right? It shouldn't be the main thing for everyone, but there certainly should be gate camps. I remember, like, nowadays it's maybe not as many gate camps around and stuff, but a couple of years ago, like, you would see a gate camp, that's content. You know these guys are still there if I form for like 10 minutes and I get my guys together and I know these guys are gonna still be there, right? It's like, it's key if you want to provide content for your guys. It's key to know when and where. It just is. And a gate camp, you know when and where, right? So, yeah, I'm a big fan of gate camps, honestly, right? And I think it's underrated.
We try to escalate too. We tried. I mean, we don't escalate as much, but we try, man.
And then people bait out the escalation. But maybe you're ready to be baited out, you know? That's the kind of stuff.
Gate camping fits are generally normally pretty bad. Like, they're just plated with scan res, and that's about it.
They can be. They definitely can be.
I always shield fit. I don't have a prop mod on most of my.
Yeah, see, that's what
I probably shouldn't be telling you guys this.
A lot of gate camp fits aren't fit for actually fighting, but they will fight if they get caught because they don't really have a choice. Otherwise, they just die.
Yeah.
Well, and then it's you'll generally, so what'll happen is like you'll have somebody caught with a hick or something, because hick is like the master race of gate camp ships. And they'll be in something where everyone else warps off and reforms and gets in something. Generally, what'll end up happening is we'll come to the gate with like a bunch of battleships with like blasters, and then it'll be these like Russian guys from a wormhole in a Sleipnir and 3 frigates, and you're like, we're getting raped. This is bad. Like this, we're not touching them. We're not, like, what do we do? Help! Like it's a very fun moment where you kind of like learn that. We're not actually good at this game. I just actually remembered. I kind of suck. Yeah, just kill them. Just somebody you just get 10 people getting mad that they can't get a point on them, and it's just like, oh, I'll get them. And I go in the interceptor and they get popped. So it's a very fun experience. I mean, you get dunked on a lot, but I mean, it's not like we're not dunking on people all the time. So it's not like it's just a cycle. Like sometimes you'll take the fights. A lot of the time, what'll happen is if it's Bomber's Bar, they'll come in a sigil, and they just will constantly go back and forth from the gate, like slow boating back and forth. And you're like, okay, well, you're gonna have to be a little bit more discreet about this than walking back the gate over and over. But if you got someone that's like a 30-day-old account or something, we'll take that bait. We'll take that bait quick.
Plus, you got to remember, low-sec gate camps get some of the best EVE males, barring high-sec ganking.
Yeah, when you get the pod. Oh.
And high-sec ganking, that's actually something you wanted to talk about too, right? Because I said... So I think I talked to...
You clarify your position.
Yeah. Miranda and I talked to High about the high-sec ganking, and I said something like, I think the game would be better without high-sec ganking.
No, you were even more in depth than that. You said,
no, my
why
11 accounts disagree with that statement.
Yeah, why does... Yeah, so, and I kind of want to clarify my point there too, because people keep bringing up, and at the moment, as one of CCP's focuses too, is the new player experience, right?
Mm-hmm, of course.
So when people talk about the new player experience, they think about like Aura talking to them and sending them to a mission and do a right click, do a left click, do whatever, right?
Crying because you can't figure out how to orbit and attack something.
Yeah, but you know what's also a new player experience is Getting spammed by recruiting mails, that's an experience. Getting fucking high sec ganked is a new player experience too. You move around your like 50 mil that you worked hard for, boom, you get high sec ganked.
Well,
I don't think
fair,
that's
Not just a
common
new
as
player
you're making it
experience,
sound.
though, right?
I don't personally gank people just for the kill, man. I specifically gank people that have like a lot of
Okay,
ISK.
so let's. They definitely do gank for the kill mail, and I think that
No, I
that
said
is
I
an issue in
personally
itself.
don't.
Sure. But what I was suggesting is I don't think new players are getting ganked like in high sec. Like maybe not.
Yeah, I
not
don't know, to be honest.
the
The
minors
first
might.
clip ever, like that anyone ever took of my Twitch channel was me getting high sex suicide ganked with none of my hardners on or anything, and I was
That
just
was-
sitting there like, ugh, like.
That's probably
I mean, to
mostly
be
'cause
fair,
you were
if you're streaming, though.
yeah.
If you're streaming,
if
they-
streaming,
I'm just
that's an
saying, people
invite.
definitely get high sec ganked.
Yeah.
Especially
Okay,
if they're
so
streaming. Like streamers always get extra.
I think like the
focus.
majority of the new players are not getting high sec gank because you need value to high sec gank in most cases. So like even when the ones it's like a kill mail where they just want to kill an empty fit, they're going after golems. They're going after like marauders or big ships that are just like they just bought it and they didn't put anything on it and they're like, okay, that's
I've
gone.
did one of those.
Yeah, or the freighters, the empty freighters, and I don't like them doing empty freighters, especially after these industry changes. I don't think I think empty freighters like need some kind of health bonus or
Yeah.
something like that if they're gonna make it insanely expensive, but you can do like 10 nagas or 20 nagas or whatever it is to get rid of it. But I don't think new people are getting ganked. I think big ships, expensive ships get ganked. I think mining ships get ganked by pirates most of the time, like people that are just on the border of a high sec system. But I don't know how frequently I would say new players get ganked. It is a crappy experience. I don't doubt that.
When I ship scan someone, I don't then look at how long they've been playing. Like that's not even something
True.
I consider. I just
Nah,
look at
that's
their
not what I'm
cargo
saying,
and look
right?
at their fit and be like, is this worth killing? Yes, I will make
Yeah.
profit, and then I kill.
So I guess the
Yeah,
point,
literally e-appraisal the cargo scan.
You don't even have to do that; it does it itself.
the point I was trying to make is probably, is it a net positive or not? Right? Like, yes, I
They need to
agree.
learn that losses are part of the game. Otherwise, they just become snowflakes.
Most of the kills in the game are like in nullsec and highsec. Like nullsec is I don't know if nullsec's first or second, but like I was actually really bothered by how low sec kills were.
There's a lot of kills in the kind of lower security high sec systems. Like Uedama, 0rchid's a recent one, I think, isn't it? If that's how you pronounce it. That's been getting quite active. Kind of some of the choke points. You know, I think similar to
Did you
what
say
you said in
0rchid?
your 0rchid, that's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, I wonder who ganks in there, dude.
Yeah, I
That's
wonder,
really
yeah.
I think the way the economy is set up is that high sec ganking is kind of vital to needing
Yeah, now right
industry
now
and production.
there's destruction.
Like when I hear, I've only ever ganked people during the invasions when I would gank offensive logi. I've never like high sec ganked before or after or just for like no reason. But I think that it's for one very, very Eve. It's something that kind of defines Eve. But it also, like, when people talk about removing it, it reminds me of back when I played Ultima Online, and they split the server from just having the one PvP anywhere zone to having Tremel and Feluca, I think it was called. And Tremel was like a copy of the world with no PvP, and you could move between the two worlds. And what happened was the PvE players went on one, and the PvE players went on the other, and like the ecosystem of the game just died down, and nobody had fun, and the game died.
I'm not sure if you can compare that, because there was
It's not
like,
entirely the same, but
yeah, but high sec ganking, like I'm not even sure if I would call it PvP necessarily, right? Like in my eyes, PvP is always like
It's single direction
Well, it's
PvP.
non-consent.
I guess
it
it
could
is,
be,
the
right?
idea is
It's
how
It's on
much
the same
of
level as bringing in 3 marauders to kill a stabber in an ESS, right?
Yeah. Or like
But-
scanning someone down, running a null DED site.
How much?
You know,
of
they
the
don't
Forming immunity
necessarily
for a
want to be
single
killed,
4x.
but
Sorry, Arsia, what?
How much of the game's destruction is from high sec ganking? I think it is quite a bit, and changing that changes the ecosystem.
It's significant.
So like, I'm not against changes to it, but like I think when people say remove it, they don't think of like the greater like economy changes. Like removing high sec ganking would be the biggest economic change that has ever happened.
I'm old enough
Okay.
to remember when people said remove local and it wasn't CCP that suggested it. I don't know, like I remember that, and nobody likes to take credit for how bad of an idea that ended up being, but they certainly love to blame CCP for listening to their player base. So it's just one of those things where like the benefit is theoretical, and the implementation of it, like you could make it a PvP event. Like the anti-pirates, like Arsia was saying, it's completely true. There are people that like just hire bodyguards. Yeah, okay, it's expensive. Well, dude, like you're making money enough to the point where you're like upset that you're losing it. So you know, I just think there are ways to make PvP integrated into it.
There
And
already
like
are.
if you're paying a
Yeah.
bodyguard, you can have them give you the loot that they get off of the ships that they're killing to save you or something.
I
The
think
funny
like
thing is, there's already like a whole thing of anti-gankers. This is why I moved out of Uedama, was because it's such an obvious ganking hotspot. That's where all the
Mhm.
anti-gankers go, and they will literally have like falcons decloak and jam you. They'll have stuff snipe on you. They'll just
That's
do every
great.
single little thing to kill you and stop you from killing people.
I love the idea of gankers having like 4 Cebus with ECM scripts, like fucking shit.
Oh, I've definitely
That's why
showed up in
cats
Udama to
use
kill
ECM
people.
scripts.
Yeah, I've definitely showed up in Udama to kill gankers. It's super fun. It's really,
great.
really fun.
I
What?
think Eve is a game of making mistakes and learning from them, right? And that's true in high sec, low sec, null sec wormholes everywhere. It doesn't matter. And I think I'm personally okay with things if there's a form of counterplay, and that counterplay might not be, you know, flying a nano ship and, you know, feathering someone out or something like that. It might be, you know, learning how to fit ships properly. Don't fit bad fits. Don't fit things too expensive for what you're doing. You know, watch local. You know, if a you know, a little scanning ship lands on grid with you, you know, be careful of what's coming because there could be someone else coming. So as long as there's some kind of counterplay and learning process in there, then I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, I think so. As long as it is like Isaac said, that no, like I'm not saying no new players, but like new players get hit very rarely by ganking stuff, then I guess I'm gonna change my mind right here. I'm gonna say, all right, if there's
And
like
if
a
they
little
don't,
bit
I
of
would
a
agree with you.
So I remember when I was a new player, and I started in 2010. And when I was a new player, I was an idiot. Compared to now, I'm a
Well,
moron.
I
but
want to
I'm
see
really
the
an idiot.
fucking.
Like,
I want to see the new player who's like
So-
that brilliant guy.
So it took me like 2 weeks to figure out how to jump out of my starting system. But like, I used to put everything I owned into a bestower. It wasn't much. I didn't own much. I put everything I owned into a bestower and autopiloted to my next destination,
no.
like constantly. And I was never ganked. And back then, Isoboxer was still a thing. So
I think
like,
it's probably because you weren't carrying enough to warrant ganking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd
it
say
was,
I
it
run
was like
into
a
new
Punisher.
players.
It was like a Punisher, a tormentor for mining 2 Veldspar.
With your new
Yeah.
chip.
I run into new players a lot. And I'm sorry for where I cut off.
No, it's all
so
good.
I can't. I run into new players a lot in Rancer, and because I guess the default routing doesn't prefer shorter or prefer safer or something. Because I mean, I can't tell you how many times. So this is like pirating is like a lot of the time. You'll be in the moment. It's like 3 a.m. because I play in AU time zone. And a hauler comes through, and you're like, everyone come on. And you get everybody at the gate, and you kill this hauler, and it melts like it has no fittings, and you're like, what was that? And then you check the fit, and it's like, okay, all right, this guy had a civilian miner on his hauler. Let's open a conversation with this kid real quick. Let's talk to him real quick. And what ends up happening is the new player will either find out through us or through someone else that they should avoid dangerous systems right now. They should join the rookie help or English help channel if they're not already in it. And we send like always like triple or quad plus. It'll be like 5 million. I sent 25 million. If you want to ever feel good about yourself in EVE, like just go and give a new guy some like a little bit of money. You're gonna
Don't
feel
give him
like
too
you're
much,
actually
though.
like,
Yeah.
no, I'm telling you, I give him 25 mil, and this guy was like dying. He was like he was ready to give his life for like a legion of like my.
You've got a
Just
new
it's
game title,
unbelievable
then.
how grateful.
You've got
Yeah.
a new decloak.
They're Yeah.
You're definitely right. Like somebody gave me a million ISK and a bestower, and I was their biggest fan.
Yeah, they remember your name. I got an email from a guy that I met in 2018 the other day, and when I signed on, he was the first person to send me a mail. I was like, "What the?"
It's funny that you say that, Isaac, because Commander Pineapple 2012 gave me a hurricane to do level 2 missions in, and I will always remember that
Sinclair
name.
gave me 40 mil.
That's so cute.
But it's the same for me. I was high set ganked once. It's probably got to be, I would say 5-6 years ago now, maybe 7 years back. I used to run the high sec sites in a hawk, in a semi blinged out hawk. It was like 110 mil, something like that. And
Nice.
I made the mistake of going AFK one day, and I was probed down and killed by a guy called Zoppy Clone, who I think is in code now, still plays, I think, from recollection. And I remember that name, and I've never made that mistake again.
Have you ever gotten revenge on him?
Nice. Yeah, so I think that's what the new player experience is like. I think they run into people in low sec, and maybe you'll run into like a high sec ganker. But you would probably see it more as a new person than you would actually be the victim of it. You'd probably just be sitting in your mining belt and notice like this skiff or this retriever just got his butt pushed in or something like that, and you're like, what just happened there? I don't understand.
To be honest, I think
I remember
I think a lot of new
Go on.
players actually deal with loss better than a lot of veterans do.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
I
At
mean,
least in the mails I've had
it
recently.
depends on on
Depends,
the level, right?
Some EVE veterans get angry when they win. Like
Exactly.
If they win too
That's true.
easily, yeah.
like they get away and they're like, effing noob. It's like, why are you mad? You got away.
I
That's a good
definitely
point.
don't do that.
No, Squishy would never do that. Make fun of the guys. Like if you get into someone's staging and then like some like random dude shows up in a legion, for example, and then gives you guys a fight, and he's like a complete shit fit, you would never make fun of him and shout at him in local, right?
No, definitely not. No.
And I
Honestly,
would never.
the worst part about with new players is like I feel like I don't know if there needs to be like a new skill base core or something, but I feel like they should be able to fly like a lot more early stuff easier, especially if they're going to make the focus on capitals. If we're not going to get like nice, I was listening to one of the FC chats with you in Pro God Legend, and he's like talking about like how unfun it is just to play caps. Like you don't get to do like transversal, and you don't get to do like interesting applications of
It's all
damage. You don't get to
positioning.
do all this stuff. Yeah, it's exactly. It's all range and how well your other fleet or subcaps are holding people. And I thought that was like a detriment to the game. I feel like if they could fly stuff that's like you want the new person wants to be like a cruiser or caracal or something, or like a MOA or something like that, where they're up close and they're fighting and they're actually like getting to do new interactions and feel like they're a part, like that they're actually helping, not that they're always a hindrance. It doesn't feel good to always be a burden. So I don't really know what the solution is, but I feel like it'd be nicer if they could fly like a little bit more effectively.
You say
on a lot
that,
of
but
basic stuff.
if you've ever flown an autocannon mech and been tracking disrupted by a crucifier, you will want to fucking kill
That's
that man
true.
with every fiber of your being.
I
Like,
was
my
about to
full-up is
say.
now 15 kilometers. I can't do anything.
I was about to say, especially the big groups that have a newbie friendly kind of take on things. I mean, let's say Horde or Karma Fleet for goons. So like they weaponize newbies very well, right? They have like little wings of crucifiers and stuff.
But-
and then
but
you,
think-
as an
think
FC,
about
you're
that.
like, do I kill these first? It's gonna be time. I could kill all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So they
Think
are
about their
effective.
perspective though. So maybe they're useful, right? But does it feel good to sit there orbiting the anchor and just dampen
Yeah,
Crucifier, ECM?
I have to test
Depends.
one.
Depends where they're
Yes.
at. Because like if they're really, really new, sometimes it's so overwhelming, I think, that they don't even know what's going on at all.
Yeah,
You know,
they're
they may
just
be
clueless.
targeting things
It's a
and
great
hitting a
start to
module,
just
but
push a
honestly, they have
button.
no idea what's happening.
New people, like brand new people, are excited when they can keep up with the fleet. Like,
Hmm.
if they're activating
Yeah.
a module on something that's a thing that they should
Like
activate a
attacking
module on,
something.
they're
it's not your fleet commander,
right.
so
It's literally one of my earliest videos is me laughing my ass off because I jammed someone a Blackbird and I knew they couldn't do anything about it.
you know what? That's how I started out in Faction Warfare, flying crows, falcons. Like that's what I've skilled into first, hardcore falcons, because I saw like how effective they are. Right? There's a fight, 20 versus 20. One falcon declo back in the day, they had like a lot of range, and gems were just way stronger. And that one falcon just decided who wins, right? And I'm like, okay, I want to be that guy, right?
Well, I think a Falcon
it's a dick
decides
move,
wins
but
often
yeah.
enough now as well. Like a
I
Falcon
mean, new players,
decloaks
I
has
don't
a
think are
different
particularly
purpose.
rational. Like, I remember when I first started the game, I thought it was really dumb that you had to right-click orbit, and I remember like making fun of my friend, like, "Oh, just right-click orbit." But it's like, and then he's like, "Well, they have bombers." And I was like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna skill into this." So like, I skilled into a stealth bomber. I was so proud. This is like in 2013, dude. I skilled into a stealth bomber. It took like a month and some change, I think. And I realized very quickly this ship's fucking useless for like almost 90% of the content. I just wasted a whole month of my
No.
life. So now I'm
First,
having to.
you bomb yourself. That's what everyone has to do. As a
No, I
noob.
didn't even get the bomb. I just got the torps. I was like, I want the torpedoes. That's what I want. I want to torp stuff. Because real men use torpedoes. Like that's how like my logic was like very dumb. And I remember like ratting with my stealth bomber and torpedoes, like in random like hubs. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make use of this. Like just doing incredibly dumb stuff. It wasn't like a rational position, but like that's how I got started. And then I got introduced to gay camping, and that's kind of how I got where I am. But like I just didn't realize what I was doing. Like you don't really skill into things that you think about. Like you have an idea of what it's going to be in your head, but you don't. It's not as interesting, or it's not the way you thought it was going to be once you start doing it. Is all I'm
See, I
saying.
had a very different feeling when I got my stealth bomber. Like that's the reason I started playing the game was the old Templeman Bombers Bar videos where he's just
JWH,
screaming his head off.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do that. So I literally trained into a Manticore, and I couldn't even use the Covert Ops cloak. So back when I was
Neither
in
could I.
back when I was in Gentleman's Agreement, I was like, hey, I'm joining this Black Ops fleet, but I can't cloak. So I was like, FC
It'll be
didn't like that very
fine.
much.
I think when I started playing the old one, it was with the old bombers in 2008, where I think they were cruise fit, not torp fit, and had ridiculous range, absolutely ridiculous range, and that was fun.
I think the
You can
first
still
time
get
I
a
trained
bomber.
into a stealth bomber, I tried to use them a couple times to like decloak and aha, I scrammed you, and then I would just die, right? Because it's like not a good idea to scram like a battleship.
I moved
With
straight into a
I've got you
Starfire.
now.
Right? Like it's like a drone battleship. It just drops its light flight and eats me, and I'm like instantly pop because I have no tank. I'm like, well, I should have thought this through.
You know, it's funny that we're talking about stealth bombs. Because next episode, next Friday, we're gonna talk to Siku, who is like very well known for bomber FCing, and Chasu from Horde. Specifically, a little bit specific about bombers. I mean, we're always gonna talk about everything, but like, I just thought, like a coincidence, might as well let people know.
Cap F came pretty close to getting one of our nightmare fleets a couple days ago. Probably like 5 seconds. 5 seconds, honestly, it was the difference.
Yeah. Battleships. But did you not just warp in information? But, you know. That's
The Exploration just came out in 2013. I remember doing that. I definitely feel like triangulating is awful still. It would be nice if we could have less clicks, I guess. we were promised the same with PI. I still haven't done. I have 9 characters, and I don't do any PI because I just get frustrated immediately as soon as I get like. There's no tutorial.
This is one of the
in-game.
first things that I ever learned how to do, actually.
So I set up PI and then I forget about it forever.
And
I
then
have
just such a
11
years later you
unpleasant
can
experience.
years later you can collect your treasures.
Yep. Issa's got a planet floating around somewhere with a bunch of PI that's been going for like 3 years.
Well, that's full at some point, right? So
I
you
don't
have to-
I don't even remember like where, like what system it's in. It's
probably
been
looked
so
at
Is there
long.
even a way to search that?
I don't
Yeah, I'm
know.
pretty sure.
There is, yeah. Like industry, planetary, whatever.
I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
I think
You
I was
know-
in Darwinism at the time.
I have exactly 1 planet, and that's in BTEC R of all systems. That's when it came out, we were just there, so I just gave it a
Nice.
shot.
BTEC-R, that's an important system. I can't remember why.
At the Battle of BTEC R, obviously. The
There we go. That's what it is.
You
type.
can RP that it's your vacation spot and you set up a little camp.
Yeah.
Little panda.
Thank you.
town
Now I
in
remember now.
Pitaka.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna wait a long time for my haul on getting that PI stuff.
We're patient. Don't worry. That's the one thing gate campers are. We're patient.
I think
So-
all EVE players are patient, though. You gotta be.
I'm not patient. Like, anybody who's ever
I-
played with me in faction warfare knows that, like, we'll be plexing and then there'll be, like, a rumor in a legend from that there was a Thrasher 70 bazillion jumps away. Immediately
Going,
ship,
quick.
let's go.
Response fleet.
Right. There's a Thrasher
Right.
in Oasa. We're
Mhm.
we're in the Bleaklands. Let's
Where?
go.
What's their name? Link.
Right.
No, it's great. Yeah, we have some guys that are stir crazy and they'll go looking for content. Like, they'll be like 2 minutes on the gate. It's so funny because they're like, we're so like, not hypocritical, but like at odds, at conflicts with ourselves. They'll be like, we'll get like a real good dunk on something. It'll be like a 2-bill hauler or something. Like, oh yeah, nice cut for everybody. I'll be like, man, I'm so glad I'm gate camping again. And then 10 minutes passes by where there's nothing coming through. He's like, oh, I'm so bored. I'm gonna go and look for something. Like they can't, like, it's not always the same experience. You get a lot of interesting different people with this game.
So I know Panda wants to talk about this probably. How do you guys feel about citadels?
Oh,
Fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Panda's not
weren't
allowed
we
to
supposed to
speak.
get like flex? Weren't we supposed to get like flex ones or something
I
like
think
that?
Citadels would have been perfect if they didn't have tether. It's not the Citadels that are the issue. I think it's the tether mechanic that's the issue. Pando
Citadels
really
were
wants
new
to
for me.
contribute.
Citadels were new for me when I came back in 2018. And the thing that was kind of the most surprising to me about it was like, you don't have to do anything to just anchor it. Like you can just fucking anchor it anywhere. Like in Empire space, in low sec, in null sec, like you don't have to have standings.
Someone else's
You don't have to
faction
have like
warfare.
anything. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it just seems surreal to me. I feel like it should be something only for sovereign space because it's sovereign space. I don't even
It's
think you
too
should be able
late
to.
now.
like- Yeah, exactly.
I think they should
so
have
I
thought that
don't-
out.
Yeah, and like I use Citadels a lot in low sec. Like we have clones. Oh, we get to have clones. It's like people don't even know what that's like. Like you're always just constantly in these big fleets. You can't ever use your clones. We get to use clones. We get to use the fighters to decloak. Do you guys get to use that, or are you guys just using that to like kill stuff? It's great. It's great.
Like, if they do
Um,
that, then a Caracal fleet jumps in and kills all the fighters.
I can tell you that
exactly.
nullsec definitely uses clones because it's a viable mechanic to, try to get the other group to clone jump so that they're out of position completely for something else that you want to do.
I think he was
Oh,
talking
well,
about
like our clones will have a
implant
the
sets,
implants.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like,
shiny clones. It was like
we definitely have.
If you
I'm
give me
always
my
the
pods,
clone.
if you give me, you want.
I mean, some people
wanna
do,
shoot-
right? Maybe not big munity.
I mean, I undock in my learning clone
small gang
sometimes
and
on accident.
yeah.
I think only Titans and like super players probably use the implants.
No, well, so
I had that.
in it has a doctrine that's shield Artimax, right? They're all based on speed, so to be faster than mutants, and you need a clone for that. So we have clones for those. So
To be fair, people forgetting about the implants make for some of the funniest kill mails.
Oh, it's so good.
Last week I killed a Arazu with a Sino up, and he was webbing me, I don't know why. And because he was webbing me, he was now aggressed. And then I killed his high-grade amulet pod.
The best is when they ask you to pod them so they could go back to like where they're going. Like, hey, could you just, your friends like pod me, please? And you're like, sure, yeah, why not? I'll send you back right now, buddy. And then you get like this big kill mail. And you're like, oh no.
We killed a pod today. That was it had like 1 or 2 high grade halos in there because he was obviously pulling it out as he was going down.
Oh no.
It's always fun, yeah.
I think like
Gotta
the
avoid
ultimate
the embarrassing kill mail.
the ultimate disrespect is when you get blapped in your training clone on accident and then you get that little like in-game mail where it's like, we noticed that you died in your learning clone. And I'm just like, I know, I'm sorry.
I didn't even know.
That mail.
You've never gotten that mail before?
I don't use any learning clothes, so like no.
No, I don't use implants
just
on my
snakes
main.
and amulets.
Well,
I die too much to use implants.
Logi pilot, so
I have nomads, so I can catch people like you, but it works really poorly when you warp 10 km from gate. I can't. I'm never gonna get over that. You warp 10 km. No, nomads. So if you get killed enough as a pirate, what you're going to find out is what's actually more better for you, like actually more beneficial for you, is being able to align quicker, not being able to warp quicker. Because the Mach already has like the increased warp speed. So you'll get like almost 6 with like Tech 2 rigs, which is basically frigate warp speed. But your align speed will be like 5 or 6 seconds. When you get nomads, you can get it down to 3.91 with mid grades, I think. And that's without the Omega. That's just using like another 6% agility one or 4% agility one. So aligning generally gets you more, and because you're always going back and forth. If you need to reship, like you're waiting for, what'll happen a lot is you'll be waiting for a frigate or a pod or a shuttle, and then all of a sudden like an Occutor comes 2 gates out, and you're like, oh crap, and like so now you're flying back to your ship and with like the 30-second session counters, and you're quickly trying to reship to get everyone on the gate and stuff like that. That's what life's like for pirates.
Yeah, that's something you keep saying 10. I woke at 20, man. It's one of the funniest things when you know
you were at 10 kilometers from me when I saw you.
You warped at 10. That's like one of the funniest things to do
smart
when you know that there's a smart bomber on the outgate. You just warp at 20, so you land 10k off of them, and then they smart bomb, and you're just like, anyway, and then you warp off again.
Anyway,
it's the ultimate power play.
It's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's how you tackle them, really, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I can't count how many times I've lost. Oh, I can't count. I don't want to look at my Macarial losses.
My favorite ever smart bomber kill was we came out of a wormhole in Iridia, and there was one person in local, and we warped to the outgate. We obviously got around their eyes in the next system over because we tackled a Macarial, and we made $1 billion ISK off of just this one kill from all the smart bombs that dropped. Because it was really
also
nice. Yeah.
The nomads get enough align time so where if you see an Arazudi cloak, you can like just go, like you can get out in time. Like that's all you need to know about why you should use nomads
That's why
over
you use a hound or a stealth bomber or something instead.
Oh man, true. Well, I mean, the stealth bomber can. You're right. It works on pirates. You can do that, but you can't. You also have to be like, you have to be careful because the pirate faction bomb is going to reach 7,500. And if they have officers, it's like 9. So like, unless you got a nice faction scram on them, you're not going to be able to get that stealth bomber to live.
I do feel like
abyssal scrams help with that quite a lot, actually. Just Tech 2 abyssal scrams for the extra range.
You'd have to get just a little bit over like 12 or 13 to be safe.
That's what I used to use when I was in Dock Workers, was a nemesis with 4 abyssal scrams.
Nice.
So I find with new players, when they get smart bombed, a lot of times they don't even know what happened. And so like, this goes back to new player experience where like a lot of the mechanics of the game are hard to understand unless you've played the game for a while and somebody told you. Like, new players generally don't know what smart bombing is out of the gate. They don't know things like how gate guns work, like how people can bounce off the gate guns. You warp your attack, you warp back, and the gate gun still
it's
fires.
those little tricks.
Like, there's so many
Wormholes,
little tricks that
stations.
have become not just little tricks, but vital parts of the game. Everything from insta dock bookmarks to insta undock bookmarks. Like, I feel like a lot of these things need to be taught somehow by like a mission. Like, maybe there's a mission where if you warp to 0 at the beacon, it smart bombs you when you're a new player, right?
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
or like,
that's how I
Speaking of-
died the first time. Like a mechanic that I didn't understand. The first ever
Yeah.
loss I had was a Drake. I undocked from a station, and there's a Megatron war target waiting for me, and I'm like, oh shit! Like, what am I gonna do? I didn't even think about like, I can just dock up. I was like, okay, I'm gonna fight my way out of this, and I shoot this Mega into deep shields, right? And then I die. I'm like telling my friends, like, oh, I almost had him, guys. He was low shields. So,
Yeah,
like,
but,
that's
like,
exactly how I
That's
died.
so bad.
That's
Why
one of the
isn't there-
annoying things
Still.
about is there's no clear like indication of when you can't do certain things.
I use the
Sorry, Isaac, you're breaking
There
up.
he goes again.
and
Squishy, what were you saying?
So like, there's not a clear indication of when you can't do certain things. Like, you warp to like an unidentified wormhole, and you're like, "Oh, there's a fleet here. I'm gonna try and bomb them." You decloak, click the bomb, and it's like natural phenomena prevents you from doing this. It's like, well, I wish you told me before I decloaked that I couldn't do that.
That's one of those
Yeah.
little secrets that people don't understand about drifter wormholes. Right? You can't
It's
bomb
like,
on
I
them.
Or
don't know
like-
if Isaac can hear me right now, but speaking of like the little things you can do, one of the things you can actually do, which I didn't realize, was if you activate your cloak and then smart bomb, you can actually smart bomb a pod and be cloaked after the pod dies, and you don't even get targeted by the gate guns at all.
That's some tricky stuff.
And as
Yes.
soon as you decloak, the sentries then lock you up and start shooting you. Though that's the main issue, though.
But like, why is there not like a new player agent that teaches you how to make an insta-dock bookmark, right?
That's
Like,
what the
how many
players really
people
teach you.
die because they get war decked and then they warp to a station, they land at like
Yeah, but that's
5,000.
part of the learning experience, right?
The other
Like,
players
oh,
teach them, right?
Yeah,
so
but
TCP don't have to.
if they end up in the wrong place, which a lot of people do, they end up in a corp where nobody freaking knows, right? Like,
I think you kind
these
of
are
just eventually
these are
figure
as
stuff
vital
out.
parts of the game as any other parts of the game, right? And it is something like, there are some things that only a player can teach you, but something like how to make your bookmarks is something you could learn from a mission.
I think the overview is like one of the bigger issues among all of them because
Agreed.
I don't care which overview they pick right now, but there's nothing worse than like trying to tell someone like ignore that. No, that's okay. This isn't like, but why is that okay? But why is this on my thing? Like, they feel like anything that's on the overview is something integral,
Don't broadcast
or
for bomb
something that they
damage.
need to be paying attention to. So it's like, it's a really cruddy, like, why doesn't it auto make the fleet like hide from your overview? Like, we have overviews that do that, but like, it's not like that generically. I use
Yeah,
the
I
EVE Anywhere
wish-
browser, and I constantly join the ZS overview channel to like fix it. It's awful. It's
Yeah.
I
miserable.
wish there was like a better editing tool for the overview settings, because a lot of the stuff is
Yeah.
just like, oh shit, where was this thing? I can't remember where it is, and you go through all
Oh,
the
yeah.
tabs until you find it.
Yeah,
And even me,
overview.
like someone that's been playing the game for 8 years, I'm like, which bloody tab is it to turn fleet members on? I'm just like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, you need overview and then the brackets and then they work together
Yeah.
and then with standings and all that stuff. It gets a little bit much,
So
especially for newer
confusing.
players, right? So I'm very surprised that new players don't get like a usable overview right at start that will get them places, and it's not too confusing. Yeah, I don't know. This issue has been brought up like for years, right? So I don't know what the issue is at like just giving them that. Maybe there is something like maybe postcode is in the way. I don't know, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
do you guys think that's like new player stuff, is that one of the biggest issues in the game, or what do you guys, besides citadels, right? I'm not allowed to talk about citadels. What do you guys think is like the biggest issue in your opinion?
I think the biggest issue is that risk reward is no longer a thing in EVE Online. Like, you don't get rewarded for taking risk in this game anymore. In fact, you get punished for taking risk. I would love to see, like, you're a risky. I'm not just talking about in like PvP, but I'm talking about in general. Like, money making, the actual risk-free stuff seems to be the most profitable stuff. Like, there's absolutely no reason for you and your Xtra and a Haven to just stay in the site and potentially get a fight. You just warp off because it benefits you to do that.
Yeah, of course.
That would be interesting if they.
I think plenty of people get caught in havens in their Ishtars though, so it's not really like a valid argument.
That's not them taking a risk. That's just them not paying attention.
Yeah, but them undocking and going in the haven is the risk that they're then taking.
I think if you're actively paying attention, there is absolutely no risk to nullsec ratting at all.
I feel like if that were the case, then nobody would ever get caught nullsec ratting, and that's
there are
not
plenty
true.
Of people that have been botting. Oh, that was dangerous. Ratting for a long period of time that don't get caught. Specifically because I think the main issue is a lot of people have a lot of alts that they're running at the same time. So it's hard to keep track on every single one. Because let's say I'm Haven ratting and I see a neutral pop in the local, right click, structures, dock. I'm now safe.
Yeah, okay.
Unless they had a bubble.
What if they put a warp bubble? Yeah.
But that means they would have had to have come in before.
And a lot of Ishtars even have stabs when they rat.
Exactly.
Like, because why don't stabs set like drone damage to 0? You can't
I hate
really
stabs
lock.
on PvP ships.
Yeah.
Or ships.
I think the bigger
ships
issue
that do combat ships.
I think the bigger issue is that like PvE in this game is not very pleasant. Like even the stuff that I like doing, like I like doing exploration. I like doing like for AFK stuff, I do like the gas mining in low sec now. It's like 30 mil, a little thing, an hour or something like that. But it's like all of the when you're a new player, you don't have like multiple clients. So like first off the bat, you have to get thrown this kind of like what feels like you've been duped. Like, oh, you need to have 2 accounts at least, or 1 account at least. You don't all the engaging PvE content, like you have maybe abyssal sites, and then abyssal sites aren't like for new players. They're just not. Like I've tried to do a T4 in Aguila. I got stomped because like I didn't approach the battleship.
You don't stop.
I didn't get this is when they had T5s. What's called when T5 was the max. I don't know if they buffed or not.
Yeah, but that's not the new. That's not supposed to be for new bros, right?
Yeah.
Like a newbie.
No, exactly. That's my
T1.
point. But that's the only engaging PvE content.
Now.
Yeah, but they start in
Tier
T1.
0 to Tier 1 to Tier 2 to Tier 3 to Tier 4.
Yeah, I think you just picked the worst example actually, because like in that case it is kind of engaging. It looks cool too, right?
No, I'm saying it is engaging, but it's not for new players. That's what I was saying. So like abyssal sites are not for new.
I mean, a level 4 mission's not for new players either.
Well,
I think
that's what I was
it's
saying.
the same argument.
The abyssals aside, though, I think in general, I'm not really a big fan of any form of gameplay that you can do AFK or semi-AFK that gets you some kind of reward. So whether that's AFK mining or whatever it might be, I really don't like that because that's actually not particularly healthy for the game, in my opinion. You're not playing properly.
When you curb it, you'll get less people in space, so it'll feel not good. Because like a lot of the reason, this is just a fact. I mean, a lot of the reason people only do like any of the PvE content is only because they can do it semi-AFK. You can do mining semi-AFK. That's the only reason some people do it.
I think that's a sweeping generalization to speak for everybody that does PvE. That's not true.
A lot of the people.
I still don't think. Listen, I've done PvE for more years than I've done PvP, and I didn't do it just because I could play a game and not pay attention to the game that I'm playing. I legitimately enjoyed ratting and mining.
Yeah, I think what Isaac is trying to say is like there's a fair amount of people in the game out in space being targets but only because they can do something like semi-AFK, like fairly passive, right? These guys will be lost then, right? Those targets are like off the plate for people to hunt and have actually PvP encounters with. So,
but do you think if that content was not necessarily as AFKable, but was interesting for them to do, that they, and maybe with some kind of, obviously appropriate reward for that interest or that challenge that there might be, do you think they would still do it?
No, I don't know if they would still do it. I think one of the biggest like cruddy things is like so the abyssal sites again. There's like the 3 modes you can do with the frigates or whatever, the triple frigates. It's people. Nobody brings their friends into that. Like it's just people triple boxing with 3 frigates doing that, and I think that's a huge like. Well,
never say
if we're gonna be hyper,
I know some people do.
Very few people have I ever met very few people like that actually take their friends and go in there. Most of the time I'm hearing
it's enough for like new players. I've personally seen, especially in horde space, like I walk to an abyssal trace and then 3 like merlins pop out and I'm like, oh my god, they're so cute. Can I keep
you feel like a monster?
You can only kill one, so
it's just so like even when they make really good stuff, like the only thing that isn't like I think exploration's really great. Like it feels interesting, it feels engaging, and it's very risky. You feel like your heart pumping when you're in somewhere you shouldn't be. I think that's great content, but I don't think like gas mining or venture mining or something like that is like the most engaging. It would be nicer if they cut the time investment, but make it instead of like an hour to mine a gas like node of 500, make it like 20 minutes, but you have to like do some kind of interactive thing. Or maybe 10 minutes and make it interactive.
Like the hacking game, kind of?
Yeah. That's
something similar.
That's
I think if you
kind of what I was getting at, I think.
Specifically for Isaac, if you want to see interactive mining, just go look at Elite Dangerous's mining. That is some of the most fun mining I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah.
Sure. And this is me speaking from ignorance. I mean, frankly, I don't have enough experience in a lot of these things to really know. I just have my first interactions with them that I recall. So I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that.
Since Squishy started this as like there's not enough risk in PvE, I feel like everyone needs to look back also at the Blackout thing, right? It tipped the scale towards the risk way too much, and we got a result that was horrible for the game. And
it was horrible because I think CCP didn't stick with it. Like if they just let it carry on for like an extra month, while it may have bankrupted the entire.
You think
company,
in a month everyone would have gone back to like I don't.
I think the problem is a lot of people can say, "Oh, I'll quit this game," but like after a few weeks, they tend to come back. But I think CCP caved in too quickly on that.
No, I think they just didn't do it the right way. I think the complete blackout wasn't the way to go. I think a local delay, would have like tipped the scale enough for it to be interesting. But yeah.
The thing is, they introduced
Arsia wants to say something.
The risk, but not the reward. Right?
I was just going to say, I think that the ESS dynamic bounty system came out of what they learned from Blackout, because a lot of people were making too much money for how low risk their activities were. So they removed local, increasing the risk. And then a lot of people didn't like that, and they stopped playing, and CCP reinstated local in nullsec. And then eventually they rolled out the DBS, which, if people weren't spread out, basically they get to choose between a little bit of safety or a little bit more risk of being spread out. But I think they still don't have maybe enough risk, because it's still a lot of Ishtars with stabs warping to citadels, even if they're alone in system.
Yeah, stabs could be removed, I guess.
I do think that stabs should make your ship do 0 DPS.
I had that opinion before, but I think a better change would just be to make each stab reduce your drone bandwidth by like 25.
Well, the new sites they just released
a ship with actual guns. You've already got a massive penalty, which is the lock speed and range. But there's no penalty to drone-based ships.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So I just did
probably
the EOM sites, and they aggressively target your drones right now. So I think those are like really good changes to like just get people out of drone boats, like to stop doing that.
yeah. So the reason why I actually brought the blackout stuff up is like now if you guys are all running for CSM. For those who are not aware, so I imagine when they first like talked about the blackout thing, they must have brought that up to the CSM, right? So I wonder who was in the room saying like, oh yeah, this is great, or were they saying something else, right? Did CCP?
That would have been me saying that's a great idea. Please
Yeah,
do that.
so
Dude, the whole player base was
so
like, look at the forums back then. We could see it like on the on Reddit, like.
Yeah, but I mean, like leading up to this. So, and then that's going to be like a key part of your role if you get elected to the CSM, in my book at least, right? That if there's a dramatic change, that you guys step in and say, like, wait a second, right? Let's talk about it. What are the details? And maybe like, let's not do it, but you have to do it in a constructive way too, right? Because
You got to propose alternatives too.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I mean,
yeah.
If that was me in the room, I'd have said kind of what I just alluded to, which is if you're going to introduce a huge amount more risk, we all know everyone right now, Eve is a game of risk aversion at points, right? If you've got 100 Munins and the guy you're fighting's got 200 Munins, you're not going to go fight him because you're probably going to lose. So you just don't go fight, right? And it's similar in PvE. If you have a system where you have no idea who's there during blackout and you're getting the same payout as you did before, do you have the motivation to go and do that? Now you're putting more on the line, but for the same reward you got before? Or are you just going to dock up and go, I don't really feel like doing this because I'm not, you know?
Do you think if they did the blackout, but then just increased bounty payouts by double, would that have been a more interesting change? Because I would have been fine with that.
So.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got to balance the scales a bit because I'm not a PvEer, not anymore. I used to be, but yeah, I think you've got to tip it the other way a little bit at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If you increase risk, you should increase reward too.
Double bounties, blackout for another week, dude. Give it another go.
I don't think blackout will ever come back.
I think the most interesting idea I've heard since the blackout was to change the role on the not the combat interceptors, but the travel ones, the ones that are nullified, to make those have a delayed local. I thought that was a really interesting thing because it's based off of the ship. It wasn't based off of like just arbitrarily. The only thing I would have an issue with would be like if they can still use guns. I think it should just be like a tackle roll. Like you shouldn't be allowed to do damage because the biggest issue with those kinds of things is you could do a fleet of them, and like nobody's gonna like the idea of like, okay, well I didn't look at my D-scan for 3 seconds, and now that these 12 AU warping like interceptors came to my site and immediately like pointed me, burning 5k MS, like that didn't feel good. Like
I think the simplest change I've seen is literally you don't show up in local until you break gate cloak. Like I think that's such a good idea.
That's not bad. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Well, I think
it
steps in the right direction, but I think it takes a little bit more still. Like, give it another 10 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, but I think they could start with that. They could start with that and then iterate on it.
I think you definitely don't want to go too overboard like they did with Blackout. That's what I think Blackout was. It was like they didn't boil the water with the crab in it. They just threw the crab into searing water and was like, oh god, doesn't like it.
That's a good reference.
You need to heat the water off and then slowly increase this kind of stuff. You can't just chuck them in. It's the same with their microtransactions, right? They started off with just skins and now they're selling skill points. They just eased us into it.
Yeah, at least if you had the gate cloak time, you'd have a chance to like descan the close anomalies and such.
Well, I mean, we're trying to get the hunters a chance to do it, right? So like, I feel like if you make like a hunter cruiser and a hunter frigate, whatever roles you want to assign it to something now or new, you can make it so that only hunters get this effect instead of like having, because if I don't know, it's just something. I feel like people would be more averse to it if it's not something like that. Like if it's a 10-second delay or 20-second delay on everybody, that's not as good as if it was a 10-second or 20-second delay on hunters spaceships only.
So
'Cause
do you
then they
think
get it
like
while they're in the system.
do you think a longer delay would kind of put all of the alts that sit in the system and just monitor local out of business? Like,
Oh, I think you would get new guys or anybody
Sitting on
just
gates.
sitting there on the gate. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to be sitting on that gate. You're going to be a busy boy.
That's what you
God,
got in
I would be
Blackout, right?
so excited if I was a new pal and got put on gate duty. I'd be like, guys, whatever
What's
system's
gonna
clear. I'd be
happen?
so
I'm doing
excited.
my
Look
part.
out!
I'm doing my part.
I think it
one
would
of
be
the
just
funniest-
alts sitting there
I think
and
people
bots.
put
That's more
bots on
likely.
gate
That's
during
more likely.
Blackout,
It's
didn't they?
always alts.
I think it would be gate camps. I think it would be more gate camps. It'd be a lot of
Oh,
Yeah, I think the funny thing about the whole delayed local, like the actual delayed local that we were talking about, would be it would be super funny if you warp to a gate and there's just a mute in there, and you're like, oh shit, there's a straggler. Let me tackle him. You tackle him, and you realize that wasn't the straggler. That was the anchor, and everyone else just decloaks.
You
And he's like, oh no.
you don't see the heartbeat of gate flashes, the freaking 50 pulses or whatever.
Or you go in on a Vexer and like a purifier uncloaks and like blops as you.
Yeah.
or maybe you shouldn't make it gate cloak, but maybe it's a mod that you fit, right? Maybe it should be a
Oh,
mod.
yeah, that would be
Start with
interesting.
that too.
And it's not
So
easy
it
to
overall-
fit.
Put it in
So
a
make
rig.
it
Put it
overall
in something
hurts
that's
your-
really just uncomfortable.
A T2 rig only that takes.
I don't
up
think it'd be that
200
uncomfortable for like a
calibration.
stiletto.
Yeah, the stilettos don't give a shit. Like, take my rigs. That's what the stiletto's gonna say. All right. I guess one question I always have for like CSM guys, like maybe in general, I know you guys are like you seem to be like a similar, like have a similar take on the game. But when it comes to CSM stuff, what do you guys think is like the most important quality a CSM guy should have, or girl, right?
I think there's probably a couple. I think you need to be a good listener and a good communicator, because if you're just so driven by one thing that you won't listen to kind of anyone else's opinions, that's not particularly great. You know, if you're sitting on a panel trying to advise people about game changes, you've got to at least listen to other people's opinions, and be able to communicate your own. But also, just having a decent amount of game knowledge in itself, I think, is probably pretty important, and why you shouldn't probably weigh in on a discussion about faction warfare if you don't know about faction warfare, for example.
Or industry, yeah.
I also think that in addition to everything he just said, which I completely agree with, I think it's also important to consider to be able to consider how a change might not affect just you, but how a change might affect everybody. Like, there's a lot of changes that happen that they happen for
Collateral
something
damage.
like they happen for something in null or low even, and then it like annihilates wormholes because of somehow like a weird mechanic with something else works, and nobody was there to think about that at the time, right? And you kind of have to be able to consider all of the implications a change might have, and try to work to make the game better as a whole and not just for you, even though we do all care about where we come from and do want to also make the game better for
Yeah,
us.
everyone will always be biased to a degree, right? Some more, some less. It's just what it is. But that's to be expected too, right? That's why I think
So,
we need like 10 people on there with different, biases.
One of the more interesting things I've really gleaned from a lot of this is obviously knowing not when to be silent, obviously. But more importantly was like how many different like ideas there are. So like a lot of the times when we're talking about like the imbalance of a ship, we're always like focusing on the ship and stuff like that. But the moment you bring it up to like a module, it's like, oh, that could actually that could make that more interesting. And there's a guy that's running right now. He's not done a lot of show work. I hope he does more. His name's Stitch K. And I listened to him on this Less Than
Yes.
10 podcast just recently, and he was going off about the tier side on weapons, how it can actually add so much to the game. So like, there's no punishment for putting the biggest guns of each type of medium, large, or whatever, like the biggest version. You just, instead of dealing with like the repercussions of whatever the fitting cost is, you just get an implant or you make it fit. You sack the tank. You always put the biggest guns on. And I thought it was interesting at how like he said like maybe you could do it so that the lower set are meant for ships like Munins, and you get the lower set to actually have like a higher tracking or a higher like actual range and distance, but less damage. And then you have the bigger ones set for like battle cruisers and stuff like that. I thought like really like out of the box ideas like that
Yeah.
could do
I
so
think
much good
they
for the game.
already do have that, but it's just not to a noticeable
It's so
degree.
minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very low.
It's like
You know,
compact,
yeah, it's a-
enduring.
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
only tracking and like cap usage and stuff. Actually, when we talked to CCP Rise and CCP Signal, that was actually brought up too, and they had a guy at CCP working on pretty much exactly that, and he had like great ideas and all that stuff. And then apparently, what happened was like, hey, this guy's great. Let's take him and put him on a different project. So that project that he was working on just fucking like went nowhere because he suddenly was put on a different thing. And but there was like a very like well thought out thing apparently in the works, but it never got any further.
Even if they just do it slowly, they don't need to do it so quickly. Like even if it's just like one section of modules every so few patches or something like that. But it's I think those things add a lot to the game, because the best part of playing this for anybody that like even when you're doing like mundane stuff, the best part about the game is like when you have to do the fits and you're coming up with these like jank ideas, like how can I fit this on here? I remember one time I fit that capital extender on a Praxis or something like that, and I was upset because you couldn't fit the capital module onto the Praxis.
I remember the exact same thing.
They took that away
when they first introduced it. They didn't take it away technically, right? It was in Python, you could do it, and I was like, oh my god, you can do this? Right?
You can do it. It's just, I guess, no one ever tried and saw that it says you can't do it or whatever. But it was like, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. I'm just gonna sit on the gate and do nothing. Like, so it's like you get
this a weird approach of amazing, but hey.
Yeah, you get these ideas that are like inspire you and push you forward, and you want to try it. I remember my first time FCing was like, we had some of the guys that like took over the gate. They had like 20 dudes, and we were only 10 in Rancer. I was like, all right, let's go and mess with them. So I set up a bunch of bookmarks, and I set up this tornado that can hit from like 120 km and target that far. So we're like aligned and warp shoot, aligned warp shoot, like over and over, and it worked. I felt so good that it worked. I couldn't believe that it did, because I thought it was going to be a crap show. I thought it was just going to be like, all right, we're going to get tackled and dead. But it worked, and that's like one of the most satisfying things you want out of the game, is to test something and it actually does what you expect.
Dumb fits that work are like the greatest. It's like the greatest feeling to have a dumb fit that works, right? Like in faction warfare space, a lot of times people had kitey slicers, and kitey slicers are a pain to go in on, like slide into the complex on if you are something that isn't so fast normally, because they'll cut you up. They already have the high ground, but I made a slicer that is like buffer fit, and it's just TD web in the two mids. No problem. No point. And I would go in on other slicers, and we'd shoot each other with the same crystal, and they wouldn't hit me, and they usually die before they can warp because they have no HP. Because slicers aren't thick, except I was.
It just feels so good, right? To think of something and it works.
Yeah, it's just like, this is not how, they'll be like, that's not how the ship is supposed to be. How is it supposed to be flowing, right?
Yep,
if it worked, it worked.
I think the most recent example of that was when I was streaming and I killed an orca. No, I ship scanned an orca and it had a civilian mining or light missile launcher on it. And I looked it up and I was like, wait, how the hell did he have a missile launcher on an orca? and I found out that these civilian light missile launchers don't actually take up a weapon slot. So the first thing I did is you can't buy them off of market. So I literally put a
You have to
bounty
destroy
out.
the
I put
ships.
an at everyone on my Discord. Was like, I will pay 100 mil for each one of these things. And then I put 8 of them on a Noctis and just went around killing benches. It was the most fun thing I've done in a long time.
Nobody expects the missile Noctis.
I looked at it, I was like,
That's so
I have
good.
to make this work. Somehow there has to be a ship that can have 8 high slots. And I was like, the Noctis. Perfect.
You got to get an Orca kill with it, dude. You got to get an Orca kill with it. That's what you need to do.
Well, the funny thing is they don't actually benefit from the rate of fire from ship bonuses, but they did benefit from the actual missile damage bonus.
That's great.
So, guys, this has been fun, but we're at our time limit.
That's good.
All right.
So, I want to go around the horn and everybody has 30 seconds to say their final piece. Arsia.
All right. So, God, where to even start?
The clock is ticking.
Put me on the spot. All right. I think that Eve is a fantastic game that has served all of us well, and we need to have a diverse and varied CSM body. And I think I'm in a unique position as a role-playing PvPer to serve multiple communities.
Beautiful. All right, Isaac.
So running for CSM is a great experience. You meet a lot of really interesting people. You get to talk to the candidates, and you learn a lot more about the game. And obviously, I think everyone running for CSM recognizes how important that role is, how much you want to help the game, but help all players as a whole. I think we all have our unique ideas, and I'd just encourage everyone to give my posts a check out and let me know if you've got any opposing views. I'm always open to speaking about them. It's important to listen and to serve, and that's what I hope I can do. So
I gotta say, some of those forum posts are so long.
sorry.
Like, I'm not sure if that was yours. I don't know. There's a couple of them that were just so long. I was like, there's like 5 people that will read this, right? Like, well, hey.
Well, you want it to be meaningful. You're running for a serious position. You don't want it to be like,
I
"Hi,
guess.
my name is
I
Jim.
guess.
My name's Extra Squishy. Lol. Check out my YouTube."
That's true. Not everyone watches like
I feel like
these
that was
podcasts.
targeted.
All right, Orchid.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on to start with. Yeah, I think a lot of people, on Reddit, they look at the CSM and they say, "What's the point?" My answer to that has always been, well, if the CSM can make one positive change across the year that they're, in office, so to speak, then that's a net benefit to the game, and it's a game that we all love and a game that we all enjoy. I personally have, a little bit of experience in a lot of areas. If you have a second, take a look at my post and some of the interviews that I've done, and if you think I'm the right person, your vote would be much appreciated.
All right, Squishy.
Together we can get rid of the risk-adverse meta that exists in EVE right now. We can make ISK reward great again. And together, if you vote for CSM Squishy, we can make EVE great again.
All right. So I would suggest that for you guys on the show, go ahead and link your forum posts into the links and videos after this if you'd like, so that everybody can have easy access to them. And I hope everyone has a good night. Oh, and is there a new skin?
There is going to be a skin at the end, and then also I want to say thanks for the guys that subbed and the host from Talking at Stations and all the guys. Thanks for hanging out. And yep, see you guys on the next one, probably Friday, with Chosu and Siku. All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Tappy is a weak tongue.
see